What's up, guys? We are back. This is The Real Deal with Casey and Jason, where we talk real life, real experiences, a lot about fitness, and occasionally real estate. Just added that in there because every episode we do, it seems like we either have somebody that's into fitness, we have maybe fitness ties into the topic we're talking about. I have a feeling today it's going to also tie in there.
We will find a way to tie in fitness today.
We sure will. First off, just want to thank, we got some really nice messages this week. Our buddy Chucky, along with a couple other ones, reached out to us. We are not 100% sure where everyone is listening.
This is where it went south last time.
Yeah. So what we want you to do is, wherever you're listening to this, if you could hit a like button, if there is one, leave a comment.
Yep.
We're not 100% sure because we have YouTube now. We have Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, RSS,
whatever that is.
Which is something that we use, that Jason and I and Nick have, even though Jason doesn't know about it.
Not a clue. And
use that, and it basically spreads the podcast out across all these different platforms.
Right.
Exactly. He's got it. So wherever you are listening in, we would love it if you would just let us know where you're listening in, because it helps us maybe promote that platform.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if people are listening to it in their cars on the ride, and I guess people could be doing that on YouTube, but bottom line is we're interested to know where you are listening to the podcast. You're
a podcast guy?
Yeah, Apple Podcast.
And same, I use Apple Podcast, and I do watch YouTube, but if I'm in my car driving, partly because we live in Cecil County where there's no service, you got no chance of loading a video while you're driving Cecil County.
Right.
So, yes, if you could let us know that'd be awesome. Today we're going to start with something that's timely now, but I think it's also timely always, and that is adapting.
Yep.
And the reason why it's always timely is because the only thing that really ever stays the same is that something's going to change. And, that really spans anywhere from, changes at your job, changes in the industry and the market. We're seeing that in real estate world right now. Yeah. A lot of changing. It could go as far as, changes in your family, losing somebody, a loved one, anything like that. So there's always going to be change. And when there's change, we have to adapt, because if not, you kind of get stuck in a rut.
You get stuck in a rut. You can get into a bad mood. You can be a poor person to be around. I think that's what I think about when I think about people who can't adapt. They're not fun to be around, because if something happens and I've been that person, I can still be that person. But if, I don't know, you're out with somebody, something's happening, and like for me, for example, if we were out together, right, just hanging out, and I got a phone call that a real estate deal was falling apart, I could go two ways with that information, right? And if I turned into a jerk and I just got all sad and whatever the case may be, I would not be a fun person to be around. That could ruin the experience.
Yeah, right? That was in the podcast that me and you both just listened to, Andy Frisella's podcast with Alex Hormozy. Highly recommend. We'll link that one.
Super, super good episode. Long episode.
You better have 3 hours set aside for it, but it's worth it. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're in business, you're just getting started, you're in sales. If you just want to look into the mindset of somebody who's ultra successful, you get a really good perspective there. But they did talk about that. And the fact that we all tell ourselves a story about our past, and that story can either be an excuse of why you can't move forward because of something that happened in your past, or it can be the reason why you succeed and something that you have overcome. And it can be part of your success story. And they talk about that where, like you said, somebody gets bad news or somebody has a sad story, and it's like that person can drain the life out of you.
For sure.
And then you don't want to spend your time and energy around them because it's constant reminder of why they can't do something or they won't do something. And we've talked a lot recently. We've both been very open, I think, open-minded, and this podcast has helped with that. But we've had conversations outside the podcast about opportunities and just being open to new things. We're like talking about different things like commercial real estate is one, buying or starting a business,
just learning about other people and their industries and having conversations about things we probably otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And with all that, there's going to have to be some adaptation, right?
Yeah.
Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
That's right.
And, if you always do what you have always done and the market changes, like we're seeing in real estate, you're not going to get what you've always got. You're actually going to get a whole lot less than what you've always got.
Yeah. I was talking to you beforehand. I just haven't prospected that much. Plain and simple. In the past 2 years, I have not reached out outside of my sphere of influence to find people who might be in the market to list their home, might be looking to buy a home. I've kind of just relied on the people that I know and the people that they know, and just all of that word of mouth and a little bit of social media working for me. But the market's different now, and interest rates are up. There's not a lot out there to sell. It's forced me into a spot where it's like I could continue to do what I've always done, which for the past 2 years has been not prospect, but I know what that's going to get me. Yeah. Or I could do what I should be doing and change and adapt. And, I'm not saying I'm going to go door knocking because that's not really my thing, but I know that it's successful for some people. But, targeting certain neighborhoods and sending out letters and, showing face at events and things like that, I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think... right, the pie is shrinking, or it has shrunk right now. So yes, you can still get a piece of the pie by doing what we've been doing, but like the people that are going to be really successful in this throughout this stretch and when it turns over are going to be, like you said, people that adapt, people that prospect, people that put the extra work in. So, real quick, we're going to define adapt, and we're going to keep it together here. Adapt. Definition: make something suitable for a new use or purpose, modify, or become adjusted to new conditions. So I think there's a little bit in there. I mean, make it suitable for a new use or purpose, modify, become adjusted to new conditions.
Yeah, the second, become adjusted to new conditions is kind of what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, we've talked about why it's important, right? If it's important because if you don't, you're not going to stay the same. We talk about the graph too, and like the graph never stays perfectly level. The graph always either goes up or it goes down. There is no perfectly level. Trying to stay perfectly level, you get gravity, which pulls you down, and then you have a downward facing graph. So whatever the situation is in your life, it's like, and we talk about trying to get better every day, trying to grow every day, because if you don't, there's no constant. There's no constant. And
every single day there are situations, even no matter how small they are, that force you to adapt. And again, the more that you can't always prepare yourself for it. I think you can mentally prepare for it, but life's going to throw you curveballs. Some of them are going to be small, some of them are going to be huge. And the more and more you can experience those situations and come out not disheveled, the better.
Yeah,
for sure.
So how do you mentally prepare yourself to adapt?
That's a great question. I think the way that I've been doing it the most lately is to try not to get too emotional. And I think the book that I'm reading that you gave me, thank you, by the way, it's an awesome book, The Untethered Soul, goes into that a lot. You know that. But just, I'm really trying to focus on my state of self and understanding that the feelings that I feel, the emotions that I have, they're not truly me. Like I'm just kind of the being, the entity, whatever you want to call it, the consciousness that experiences those, that sees those things happen. Yeah. And that's been helpful for me when things happen that I'm not expecting, that I experience, because those thoughts still inevitably come up in my mind. I still feel pissed off or scared, whatever the case may be, but feeling like I'm removed from those things means I don't feel the urge to act on them. And when I get super emotional, when things change and I'm forced to adapt, is never good. I never walk away from that situation being like, oh man, I'm so glad I got pissed off. I'm so glad I told that person off. I'm so glad I sent that, which I don't think I've ever done, rude text message. Well, that's not true. I've done that many times. I was originally going to say Facebook comment or something like that. No, I have sent plenty rude text messages that I wish I could take back. But you get what I mean. Like when you get emotional, when things change and you adapt, you act on that stuff. I can't think of any situation where it's ever been like, man, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. A couple things as you're talking there. One, I try to explain that. And I think you did a better job than I did of explaining that. What he talks about in the book is like removing yourself. You are not your thoughts and emotions. You are the observer of your thoughts and emotions, which when you take that back seat, it really does. It separates you from that. Yeah. And it doesn't allow you to get completely swept up in it and have it become your identity.
Yeah.
When you can back up, I say back up, right? Be centered and kind of observe these things happening. The other thing is when you're in a very highly emotional state, your brain doesn't function
logically.
The logic, right.
Maybe that's not the word you were going to use.
Yeah, but exactly though. Yeah. I mean, you're not as intelligent when you're emotional.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important. And I think we see this in anybody that's highly successful. And I think about people like Tom Brady in a on a football field, or Bryce Harper at the plate in a big situation, people in business, people, politicians leading the country, all of these people have to maintain under very, very high stressful situations, have to maintain a emotional balance, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of a misconception, because I think when we talk about that stuff, it's like, oh, you just have to be this robot. But that's not true either. Like you see Tom Brady when he did play, like before the games, he was the let's go guy.
Yeah.
Let's go. Like that was his thing. And he's pumping his fist. And same thing with Bryce Harper. Like they get jacked up, but it's when they're in those, big time pressure moments that they are able to kind of just zone out and, be that centered being. Yeah.
You don't see that outburst of emotion when Brady's driving down the field in the Super Bowl with 1 minute and 20 seconds on the clock.
Right.
And when Harper's about to come to the plate with the bases juiced and his team's down 3 in the NLCS.
Yep.
You see this very calm, deliberate, focused person that's got his mind on getting the job done.
Yeah.
And then after the play, then you see the emotion pop.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not that you can't be emotional. It's just like, when do you be emotional that it serves you?
Yeah. And I think if I've been and still can be the person that gets emotional when things happen, but more and more and more, I just realize I'm so much better when I react unemotionally to things, at least from the get-go. Like I take that time to separate myself and really understand what's going on before I just knee-jerk react to something.
Yep. My pitching coach, I shouldn't say my pitching coach, the pitching coach at Youngstown, I was a catcher, so I was part of that
You're
group.
on that team, yeah.
But he used to always talk about an even keel mindset. And he was like, even keel means we're never getting too high, we're never getting too low. We have to, keeping it even. And that stuck with me. That's one of those things you hear, it's been 15 years since I played there. But, when we talk about how to adapt, put some of these tools in your toolbox.
Definitely. Give them a shot.
Yeah. And that's one of them. That's a great one.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I was going to mention, because we can't stray too far from fitness here, but like, how do you adapt, or how do you prepare yourself to adapt? I can tell you, one of the things I do is I try to do something difficult every morning.
Yep.
So like before 7 a.m., I'm trying to put myself through something difficult. 50 push-ups, 30 pull-ups,
yeah, man.
And a cold shower. Like I'm trying to do that before 7 a.m. because that helps you adapt. Because here's the thing, it's like an intentional stress that you put on yourself before any other external stresses come your way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the more and more we do these things, it's almost like, and I know that it is, but we don't maybe consciously realize this, our brain's trying to not do those things. It's trying to keep us in bed. It's trying to keep us comfortable. It's trying to keep us warm. It's trying to do all that stuff. So the more we do the things that you just talked about, the more and more it's easier to adapt in real life when uncomfortable things happen.
Yeah, like in our work, I mean, it's calling a borrower with, hopefully not bad news, but maybe, hey, we have to get something else, another piece of documentation. It's calling a home seller that says, hey, the inspection came back and they want a lot of stuff fixed. Those are difficult things that we have to deal with in our jobs, but everybody's got them. No matter what you do, whether you're self-employed, you work for a company, you're a manager, you're an employee, you're going to have stuff throughout your day that you have to deal with.
And those are the things that force you to grow.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are the things that force you to grow. I mean, because you can avoid those things. You might not be able to avoid some of the things that we just talked about, but I can avoid prospecting. Nobody's making me prospect, right? I have a legal obligation to a seller in some capacities to deliver that information that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that says I have to prospect.
Yeah.
But if I don't prospect, I will. In situations like this, I'm not going to grow. But if I do those things, make those phone calls, hey, I'm Jason from Caldwell Banker, that X such and such home just sold in your neighborhood. Any chance you've been thinking about selling? That's a conversation I don't inherently want to have. I don't like putting myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. But if I do that, it's causing me to grow. Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess just kind of pivoting into this, how do you adapt, right? So we've talked about how do you prepare to adapt? How do you actually adapt? And there was something that we covered in a leadership training program that we went through with Brandon Dawson, and he talked about the 3 A's. So he's like, a situation comes up, right? There's 3 things you have to do. And the quicker you can do them, the quicker you're actually going to be able to adapt. So the first one being acknowledge. Acknowledge that something has changed. This is not the same as it was 20 seconds ago, a year ago, a month ago, right? So first thing is acknowledge it. The second thing you must do as quickly as possible is accept it. And he said a lot of people get hung up here because they're like, and I keep relating this to the real estate market that we're in. It's like, acknowledge it. Yes, it's changed. It's different. But have we fully accepted it? Mm-hmm. And I think about that with myself. Have I fully accepted what this new normal is? Another thing is like when COVID happened, it was like, acknowledge it. Okay. We understand that something's happening. Accept it. How is this going to change? Yeah. Everything going forward, right? And fully accept that so that you can get to the third thing, which is go into action. And just think about that, I guess, for anyone out there, if you're listening, think about that in your own life. If something has changed, which we know it has, have you acknowledged it? Have you fully accepted it? And what action have you taken to actually adapt to? So there we go. We got 4 A's now. Yeah. So the fourth A is going to be adapt. But what action have you taken to adapt to that new situation?
Right. That's great.
Just something, hopefully a takeaway that we can share that helps someone out there. Because I think if you get stuck in any one of these, and again, I think with all these situations we're talking about, but if you could accelerate that transition from one to the next, it's really going to make that period where you adapt a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you mentioned doing it quickly is important. Like, the faster you can acknowledge something and make that change, take that action, the more likely I think you are to be able to adapt to that situation. Our buddy Scott Crawford commented on a couple of our YouTubes, but the first one, he mentioned a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. Maybe he didn't mention the book. I think he did, but he mentioned the 5-second rule.
Okay. I've heard of that. I haven't read that one.
I picked it up and I'm still reading it now, but very similar. As far as, there's a little, in like the small things that happen every day. You wake up and your brain wants to keep you in bed. There's a 5-second window where she calls it the 5-second rule. You actually count down in your head 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just act. Yeah. And because in that 5-second window, that's the moment of hesitation where you can go one way or the other. And if you're intentional about it with that 5-second rule, there's a lot of evidence that shows that you can adapt and make changes. So I think that kind of goes along with what you just said.
So that's another great one too, to keep in your toolbox. So if this is something that you're like, yeah, I could get better at that, keep that little exercise, the 5-second rule, in your toolbox.
Yeah, add waking up and getting out of bed to something we always talk about. Fitness and getting out of bed.
Yeah, are we going to hit cold plunges on this one or what?
Well, when you said start to do something difficult, you said cold showers.
I did, that's right. We already got it. Check. No, I love that though. I think that's been a trigger for me, and this will take us right into the next thing I wanted to talk about. When I did 75 hard the first time, you get into this mode towards, I don't know what day it is. Maybe I don't know. It felt like it took a couple weeks to get into this mode where as soon as I thought about something, And it didn't matter if I thought like, hey, I should do this or hey, I shouldn't do this. I acted very quickly. So you started 75 hard. So just fill us in on that. You're how many days in?
Today's day 5. Yeah, I have a confession to make. When did you do 75 hard?
This was
you've done it once or twice.
Twice. So 2021, February 2021 was the first time.
Yeah, I was like, dude, what the heck is this guy doing? Like I was like, first of all, why is he doing this? Second of all, I work out every day. That's probably easy. Like whatever Casey's doing is probably easy.
Yeah.
And I was just like kind of confused by it. And I was like, I was almost like, that's cute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I apologize because I didn't think you were stupid, but I was like, this 75 hard thing sounds dumb. Like I really genuinely thought that.
Same. When I first heard about it, I was in the same boat. So
and
no offense. No offense taken.
And I was like, man, so like whatever. And then you did your thing and, you changed a lot. And so I thought that was great. And then, this time around, you really got me introduced to obviously 75 hard just by showing me what it was because you were pretty active about your post, which also something I struggle with. So shout out to you for being vulnerable in that. And then he introduced me to Andy Frisella, who is call him the founder of 75 Hard. He's the idea, the person behind it, first formed the whole deal. So I started it on Monday, and I'm here to say that it's really tough, man.
Yeah.
That second workout outside is, that ends up being the one that I do outside, the second one. It's tough, especially, I say in our line of work, because I don't ever know where my window of time is going to be.
Yeah.
So I have to adapt based on, scheduling or something that comes up last minute. Maybe I haven't encountered this yet, but there will be a time when that's my workout time and something's going to change.
Yeah.
And then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, 2 workouts a day.
Yep.
Right? And correct me if I'm wrong or add whatever. Gallon of water.
Yep.
Read at least 10 pages.
Yep. Of a nonfiction book. Something personal development.
Didn't even know that was part of it, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that's good. Meal plan of some sort.
Yep. Follow a diet. He doesn't say what diet, but basically follow a diet and know, your diet can't be like, I eat chocolate cake every day for dinner.
Right.
Like it has to be a diet.
And then no alcohol.
Yep.
Right. And I was 1 year sober on Sunday.
Wow. So look at that timing.
Yeah. So that's not an issue for me. But the second workout is really what's most difficult. But I was super sore a few days in. I don't want to bore you too much with it, but I'm here to tell you I'm finding it difficult. But I'm also finding it very helpful. It's keeping me like in a zone. Yeah. Which I love.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going with this is like, we talk about getting into action quickly. It really rewired my brain to, like I said, whether I thought about something and not doing it or doing it, it was like I had to make a decision quickly because you'll find, and I definitely found when I was doing it, it was like, I know I have to get the second workout in and it's got to be 45 minutes. And I didn't have time. Like if I hesitated and was like, I'm going to hang out on the couch for another 15 minutes and watch TV or whatever. No, I had to get up and get moving immediately.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you run out of time.
Minutes was an hour. Maybe you'd be on the couch.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And then you run out of time. And then it's like, well, it's 11 o'clock. I'm not going to go outside and do cardio now at 11 at night.
And if you're doing 75 hard the right way, as you know, you miss something, you're supposed to start over.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 75 days straight. Yep. Yeah. We should mention that.
Yeah.
No breaks, no cheat days, no days off. So it just wired me to get into action really quickly. And that still sticks with me today. So now, I'm not doing 75 hard at the moment, but like in the morning, say, like just recently, so Carter had his tonsils out. So kind of threw my schedule off this week a little bit. Like we're running up to the hospital and then, we're giving him medicine every couple hours now to keep him feeling good. But so this week, my schedule's off and I'm like waking up in the morning later than I normally do. And I'm like, I haven't worked out yet. I didn't go for a run or walk yet. And I'm like looking at the clock for a second, like, do I have time to do this before work? Yeah. I really got to get going, to get a shower and get to work. But then I'm like, dude, if I just go now and knock it out, and it might be not 45, but like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, like I can get back and still get my stuff done. So it's like you stop negotiating with yourself back and forth. And I spent so much of my life doing that, man.
We still do. Even and we're much better at taking action now than we were, whatever in our past. But we still negotiate with ourselves. At least I know I do. But
I do too.
But that action is so important. We've all heard that action cures fear, and sometimes I think we hear that stuff so much that like we just kind of like I saw you with a 75 hard. Like that's cute. Like that's like like it's one of those things like we hear, but like you have to do it. Like if once you do it, you're like, oh wow, like it really does. Like if I'm afraid of something and I act on it, like I mean I'm gonna find out one way or the other how bad it really was. Yeah. And either way, I'm gonna have that experience that's gonna hopefully and usually alleviate that fear.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And, I found that too, even with just pulling myself out of a rut. Like I said, this week I've been a little bit off with my schedule and I feel it mentally. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I feel different mentally. I don't feel as sharp. I don't feel as open. I'm not as positive as I normally am. Yeah. A little bit of negative self-talk is coming in. And, last night, especially because I've been working from home this week and I'm not out, I'm not seeing people, I'm not face to face with anyone. And it got to me last night. I'm like, all right, I got to get into action on something to clear my mind up. Right. So last night after the kids went to bed, I just got on the treadmill for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I felt so much better after that. I'm like, just getting into action, even if it's not necessarily towards the thing that you're maybe stressed out about or anxious about. But if you just put your body in action and into motion, or you do something, it doesn't have to be like, sounds stupid, but like even going and like preparing the coffee pot right for the next morning, like just do something productive that you're gonna be thankful for later. Just do something, do some kind of action.
I feel like the good snowballs into good, but the bad snowballs into bad. So if you weren't to make the coffee pot and you just went and sat down, like you'd probably wallow. At least I would. I would find a way to wallow, and I would maybe like just like fall asleep and knock at other stuff. Then I'd wake up the next day feeling feeling bad. But you go do something small, productive, and it's all the stuff we've already talked about. The stacking the small wins.
It is, and it's also, if you have that thought, right, like I should do something productive. Like what's something easy I could do and just get a little quick win. And it's we'll use the silly example of the coffee pot. But like if you don't do that after you thought I should go do that, then you broke an agreement with yourself. Yeah. And then you just you're kind of programming your mind that even if I thought about that and I knew I should do it, I'm just going to bag it and I'll do it later. I'll worry about it in the morning. So that's definitely a little hack that I guess I picked up and haven't really even talked about it, but it's something like that. Just do something productive, a small win, and it will shift the momentum, like you just said, into the next thing and into a bigger thing and into a better thing. Yeah. Rather than don't take the action, push it off, and then you just feel different, man. You're going to go to bed feeling different. You're going to wake up feeling different. So yeah, it's huge. Stack a little win in there. It helps you adapt. It puts you into action. Anything else you want to cover on this topic that you can think of?
Not right this second.
I would like to hear some feedback from anyone out there. If you, maybe you're really good at adapting. You have to do it a lot for your job or, in your family or whatever it is. But I'd love to hear feedback if you have any comments on this. Also, if you're having trouble with it, if there's anything we can help with, certainly reach out. And we'll share anything we can. I mean, that's why we do this. So if we can help anyone.
I want to thank my fiance for helping us with the topic.
She helped us adapt just this morning by floating this topic out there. And as soon as you texted me that, I was like, that's perfect. Yeah. Because everything that's going on, not only in our industries, but in our worlds constantly, it's always adapting. So
she's very smart.
Yeah. Give her a lot of credit for that, for sure. So thank you for that. Thank you all for listening in. It's been fun. Another week. Yeah. We might have some bloopers from take number 1 of today.
Yeah. We had to get it together a little bit.
You might see some bloopers coming out from take 1. This is take 2. It went much smoother.
Nick would have been shaking his head the whole time.
Oh yeah, it would have done.
And he would have been like, when I said something about the RSS, he would have been throwing his hands up. Like,
oh yeah. Then we started this one. I was like, I can't even look. I can't look up. I had to keep my eyes pointed down because we kept laughing. It was like, what's the movie where it's like, I can't even look at you right now.
It's probably Step Brothers.
Yeah, I think it is Step Brothers. Yeah. It sounds like a Will Ferrell thing. Yes. All right. So thank you guys so much. We will see you again next week. It's been fun. This is The Real Deal with Casey and Jason.
See y'all.
See ya.